Namaste. Welcome to the 6th edition of the Global Festival of Oneness, celebrating the lives and work of Adi Shankara, organized by Indica Moksha. My name is Anuradha and I am the host for this session. Let us start with a prayer. Sada Shiva Samarambham, Shankaracharya Madhyamam, Asmadacharya Paryantam, Vande Guru Paramparam. We're very pleased to have with us Dr. Chinmayananda, and he'll be sharing with us the topic Anecdotes from Shankaracharya's Life for Understanding Advaita. Before we get on to the talk, I'd like to introduce the speaker. Dr. Chinmayananda earned his BE Engineering degree from BMS College in 2012 and spent 3 years as an IC design engineer. He completed his PhD in wireless communication and coding theory at the Indian Institute of Science. Rooted in Indian knowledge systems, from an early age, Chinmayanandaji studied Krishna Yajurveda under his father Arunachala Sharma and Vyakarana Shastra under Vidwan Sridhara. Under Vidwan Sridhara. He has also learned Carnatic flute under Vidwan Shankara Rao. During his PhD at IISc, he led the Sanskrit Sangha and taught Sanskrit to enthusiastic learners. Welcome, Dr. Chinmayananda.
Thank you, Radhaji. Thank you for the opportunity and the kind introduction. So let me start with the invocation. Sharadindu Vikasi Mandahasam Spuradindi Varalochana Aravinda Samana Sundarasyam Aravindasana Sundari Pase Shrutismriti Purananamalayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padashankaram Lokashankaram. So, as the topic of today's talk is revolving around the incidents that has happened in the life of our Acharya, Shankaracharya, we will try to see what are its implications and try to see it from the angle of different Shastras under Indian knowledge systems as well, including Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta. Before I even get into this topic, I think there is some more introduction that is required to understand the importance of this topic. So, first we will delve into the importance of an Acharya, especially in Advaita Vedanta. Acharyas are there in every other Sampradayas, but why Advaita Vedanta requires highly competent Acharya? That is the first thing we will try to understand. So, in order to understand, let us quickly review what Advaita says. So, Advaita Vedanta says that the entire world, the entire universe is made up of one entity, and that is called as Brahman. Now, the minute I tell that the entire universe is made up of one entity, the immediate question that arises is, from the transactional reality that we are in or that we are experiencing now, it seems that the universe is made up of a lot of multiplicities, right? Either you want to see it from the angle of physics or chemistry or mathematics or any other scientific endeavor, it seems that there is a lot of multiplicity and there is no unity of the elemental matter. So this is something which is counterintuitive, which is hard to understand, even though the Upanishads, the Bhashyas and other texts try to give hints towards the nature of this Brahman or the elemental material. For example, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayam Parame Vyomam. This is what Taittiriya Upanishad tells about Brahman. So it says, one of the qualities of this Brahman is Satyam. So what is Satyam? Satyam is something which doesn't change across Desha, Kala, Vastu, Vyakti, Avastha. Right? So Desha is place, Kala is time, Vastu or Vyakti is the matter and individual, and Avastha, that is the condition. So similarly, there are other attributes like Jnanam, Anantam and Anandam. Okay, so there are some attributes that the Upanishad says about Brahman, but still it is beyond the reach of words And that is why we say that Brahma is anirvachaniya, which means that we cannot describe Brahman, the elemental material which is completely pervaded in the universe. It cannot be described in words. So, as our acharyas and even Bhartruhari, another philosopher, says, what is the only proof for this? To understand this is anubhava or swanubhuti. So now, if we try to look at this hypothesis or the claim of Advaita, it seems like there is some theory or some hypothesis. And obviously, from a scientific perspective, we need some evidence, we need some validation or experiments to prove this. So, since it is said that the validation of this is through the anubhava, so we need some people whom we can call as acharyas or gurus who can really validate that this is really true. The claim is really true. Through their experiences, through their behavior in the society, they have to prove that this is in reality true. So we need acharyas or we need people who can prove this. So let us quickly review the understanding of acharya in our knowledge systems. So there are three conditions that are given for a person to be an acharya. The first thing is achinoti cha shastrartham. So shastrartham refers to all type of concepts or practices that are given in shastras. There are a lot of shastras, starting from Veda to the Shadangas and the Darshanas. There are a lot of shastras. And now there is another difficulty in proving or at least getting convinced with Advaita Vedanta. This problem is of the Adhikari Bheda, which is each of us have different mental dispositions. We come from different backgrounds. Each of our intellectual capacities or faculties are different. So, what teaching, the teaching or explanation that will suit to a particular person might not be suitable for another person. So, one has to cater, an acharya should cater to the needs of all types of people. Okay? So, from this perspective, we have a lot of shastras, we have something which is counterintuitive, we have people coming from different backgrounds, both physical, mental, cultural, anything that you can take. So, in this context, in order to preach or lead one person to understand or at least appreciate Advaita Vedanta, we need an acharya who can selectively, I'm not saying selectively in a negative sense, but more comprehensively try to choose. That is chinoti. Samantat, chinoti is to choose. So samantat refers to from a holistic perspective. One has to choose different concepts or practices that are spread across different shastras, because in our shastric learning, we say that we have to understand one particular topic based on the statements spread across different shastras related to the same topic. So we have to have a person who can do this job for us. So this is point number one. Number two is acharya sthapayatya. Achara is a very heavy word according to Dharma Shastra. So, in short, what is achara? Achara means purification of pancha indriyas or five sense organs or senses, body, mind, and dravya desha kriya, that is the objects or matter, then the place, and the kriya is action. So, all these things have to be purified whenever a person tries to do a spiritual sadhana, or even his everyday chores should have this achara. So it is a purification process. So one has to take all these theoretical concepts and processes and procedures, should fine tune it to the person who is the shishya, and put a sort of a methodological process taking care of all these variabilities. This is the second point. Third point is swayamacharate. So this is not a sort of armchair philosophy where you just talk something which is high sounding and just forget about it. So it is all about practicing. So he not only preaches these things, he also keeps these teachings in his own practice, his own daily life. So this is the third point for a person to be qualified as an Acharya. Now there are different connotations of Acharya. When we come to Shankaracharya, he is not just an Acharya who is preaching these things and showing these things in his own deeds and actions. He is also a guru, and he is a Jivan Mukta, he is a liberated soul. And as we see in Bhagavad Gita, Jnani tu Atmaiva Meyamataha. So Krishna says that any Jnani is equal or equivalent to me. So he is a Sarvajna. Now, the dire need for an Acharya, especially in Advaita, is coming out of the very hypothesis that Advaita is claiming. So, this Acharya or a Guru who has to establish this Advaita hypothesis or Advaita Siddhanta should be a Sarvajna, right? So, he needs to know everything across time and space. So this is the importance of Acharya. This is, and we will see in the coming anecdotes that this condition has to be satisfied, that he should be a Sarvajna and he should be able to answer anything. Okay? So whether he really chooses to answer or not is a secondary thing, but in reality, he should be a Sarvajna. So taking care of all these things, we have understood that we need a Acharya who can establish this Advaita Siddhanta in a very solid manner. But we also see supporting statements from other Shastras which justifies this understanding of an Acharya, especially in understanding his deeds, his actions, analyzing them, and then trying to see what Dharma Sukshmas or deeper aspects of maybe Advaita Vedanta or other Shastras are seen or can be seen in his actions. So if we go to Yoga Shastra talks about controlling mind. So one of the sutras or one of the paths of controlling the mind is given by the sutra, Vitaraga Vishayam Va Chittam. So Chittam is roughly mind. Vitaragas are those people who are dispassionate, and the best of those dispassionate are Jnanis, Atmajnanis or Brahmajnanis. And Vitaraga Vishayamba Chittam says that you give material or anecdotes or episodes from the life of these Mahatmas or Jnanis as an object for the Chitta or mind for contemplation and deep analysis. And when this is done for a longer duration of time, consistently, because yoga also says anything that has to be practiced should have three qualities. That is Dirghakala, Nairantarya, Satkara Sevito Dridhabhumi. So it should be practiced for a longer duration of time and it should be consistent. There should be no Vichitti or break in between. And there should be a Satkara or a right attitude. So with these three qualities, if one does this, he can control the mind. So understanding or analyzing the actions or episodes of great jnanis has been in tradition in different names. So people might have heard of Guru Charitra Parayanam. So Parayanam itself says that you need to understand the ultimate truth. Param, the word Param in Sanskrit refers to two things at least. One is the other bank, and the other meaning is the end or the samapti. Okay, so end in here refers to the ultimate truth. Okay, so samaptim ayate anena. So that which leads you to understanding the ultimate thing is known as parana. It is not simply murmuring or blabbering certain mantras or shlokas. So, in the form of Guru Charitra Parayana, it is actually embedded in our culture and tradition. So, and also works of Shankaracharya, for example, it could be Viveka Chudamani. There you see this verse: Durlabham Trayamaivaitat Daivanugraha Hetukam Manushyattvam Mukshutvam Mahapurusha Samshaya. So, three things are very difficult to achieve or obtain in one's lifetime. So, the easiest of them is Manushya Janma, that is being born as a human being, because he has Viveka or discrimination to see what is Anatma or what is Satya or Asatya, what is Dharma and Adharma. Second most difficult thing is Mumukshutva. So, Mumukshutva is basically the deep urge, the intense urge to be liberated or to understand the real Swarupa or the real reality of oneself. This is Mumukshutva. The most difficult thing is Mahapurusha Samshaya. So Mahapurusha Samshaya literally means taking refuge in Mahatmas. But in this context, it has to be understood as having the kripa or grace of these great beings. So even here you see that in order to get their grace, because these people are equal to Brahman, as Sri Krishna told, Jnani tu Atmaiva Memataha, and we also know that Brahman is Anirvachaniya. It cannot be easily understood in terms of words. So it is something which is not completely in the reach of mind, but to some extent it is in the reach of mind and intellect. But it is through deeper contemplation and tapas and swadhyaya and sadhana that one has to understand this Brahman through the life of these people. So this establishes why we need to inquire into the episodes, different episodes from their lives, and try to imbibe the best out of these episodes. One more thing that we come to know when once a person keeps on doing this for a longer period of time. So we know that our mind is is like a monkey. It's highly volatile, and when you keep on giving these episodes as a food for thought, lot of other activities or afflictions of the mind gradually start reducing. So this is another side effect, and this is how it will lead in parampara or gradually to understanding Brahman in reality. When I say understanding, all through this lecture, I am not talking about the bookish understanding of Brahman, because one of my gurus, Puja Swami Paramananda Bharati, said that understanding Advaita through books is a different ball game, and really understanding it through experience is a totally different ball game. So when I say understanding, I repeat it again. I am talking about something which is nearer to practically understanding the implications of the statements that we see in Advaita texts. So let us start with some of the episodes from our Acharya's life. So in our culture, when we talk of life of a person, it starts from Garbhadhana Samskara, or the conception in the womb. So there's a belief that the cravings of the mother reflect the vasanas or samskaras or the latent instincts of the child. So for our reference, I have taken Madhaviya Shankara Digvijaya, which has been authored by the great pontiff of Sringeri Mutt, who lived 600 years back, that is Sri Vidyaranya Swamiji. So there could be different questions about the authenticity of these things, but I think we should not worry about those aspects and understand what is the purport of certain incidents or episodes from our Acharya's life. So the initial episode that we see is the special thing that we see in terms of the craving of his mother, Aryamba, two verses are there which talk about her cravings during the pregnancy. So one is that she doesn't like to apply gandha on her body, and she doesn't want to wear flowers with fragrance. This is one of the craving. Second is she doesn't want to wear heavy ornaments. And the third craving, which is very peculiar, which is really having the gist of Vedanta for a sadhaka, is she used to ask for something which is durlabha. This is the word that has been used, something which is durlabha, which means which is not easily uh, obtainable. Okay? You cannot easily get it. So she asked for something which is durlabha, and after some time, when that is brought to her, she changes her mind and says that no, I don't want this thing now. I want some other thing which is again durlabha. And these are some of the cravings that is mentioned in the Shankara Digvijaya. So let us analyze these things. So she doesn't want to have gandhalepana, or she doesn't want to wear flowers. Okay, so these are signs of a virakta who doesn't want to decorate his body. Okay, and we know that there are fourfold qualifications for one to actually study the Vedanta. I'll not get into the details because that is, you can easily see that on the internet. So one of them is vairagyam, right? So that is dispassionate behavior, both internally and externally. So these cravings show that the Shishu or Bala Shankara within the womb had vairagya. And that is what a sadhaka or a person who wants to have should practice. Which is also put in other terms are nothing but shama and dama. And coming to not liking to wear heavy ornaments. When we talk of the three gunas, that is sattva, rajas, and tamo gunas, in the Sankhya philosophy, the Sankhya-karikas, sattva is said to be laghu and prakashakam. So that which is light and that which shines, right? So anything that is heavy is not nearer to the sattva guna. It is more close to the tamasa. So you see that the sattvic behavior is also explained by this craving. The last craving is really interesting. That is, he asks for the Aryamba, the mother asks for something which is durlabha, which is not easily obtainable. And once that is given to her, she says that I'm no more interested in this thing. Get me some other thing which is durlabha. Okay? So there are different Shankara Digvijayas which have been authored by great saints from yonder times. So one other Shankara Digvijaya talks about a similar thing after the birth of Shankara. So what Shankara does as a small child, whenever he is given something to play, let us say a ball, he will try to examine it using all his senses. Let us say he turns it, sees it, and he sniffs it, he tries to taste it, he tries to touch it, and he tries to beat it and see what is the sound, so on and so forth. And after some time, he will just throw it away, showing no interest in that ball or that particular object. And Shiva Guru starts crying with a lot of joy. So, what is the hidden message here? The Upanishads say, Atma va are drashtavya shrotavyo mantavyo nididhyasitavya. So, the Atman or the Brahman has to be seen, that is drashtavya, has to be listened, shrotavya. So, just because only two senses are mentioned here, it doesn't say that you must not examine through other senses. It's an upalakshana for examining through other senses as well. And then one has to carefully contemplate and then put all these things into practice. So this is one of the Upanishadic statements. Coming from a Yoga Shastra perspective, one other method of controlling the mind is ekatattva bhyasa. So when the celebrated Bhashyakara on Yoga Sutras, that is Vyasa, comments on this, he says that this ekatattva bhyasa, ekatattva is one single tattva or one single entity. You have to carefully contemplate on one single entity. And Vyasa says that this ekatattva is nothing but Ishvara tattva, but at a much diluted level, or at the level of we people who are into different, who have lot of inflections with the external world, we have lot of interests. So some might be interested in music, some might be interested in, let us say, dance, some might be interested in maths. So how can one start his journey of Advaita? Can he start with these things? The answer is yes. And the answer comes from different Upanishads. So these worldly knowledge systems are referred to as avidya. And avidya will also lead to the vidya, which is nothing but the knowledge of Brahman or Atman. So when we try to relate this with this particular craving, one has to really understand when I talk about ekatattva. So as a diluted part of ekatattva, this has been there in the experiences of great sadhakas, that they will start with the field of interest, their interest. It could be music. And what one has to see is trying to understand or intellectually try to find what is that one tattva or one entity in music that is responsible for all varieties, or the ananda that is obtained by music, listening to music, or which is inside our psyche, but which is not clearly describable. Okay. So try to find that one entity, whatever name you might give, want to give it to, give to it. So it could be rasa when it comes to literature, or it could be dharma when it comes to our everyday behavior. So that will also have the characteristics of Brahman, but at a very diluted level, maybe constricted level. So this ekatattva bhyasa is actually depicted through this craving. So Shankara is trying to analyze and understand what is the gist or what is the ultimate tattva related to every object. And this has been expressed as a craving in his mother. So he always asks for a durlabha tattva, that which has high value. And then after some time, he analyzes that whether there is really the qualities of Satyam, Jnanam, and Anantam. And after he analyzes this, he will just abandon it, he will just throw it away. And this is what has been mentioned by this episode in Shankara Digvijaya. The beauty of this, when you ask sadhakas, so they will start with one particular field of interest. It could be music, and they will go deep into it, trying to find what is the ultimate tattva. And in fact, we can see this in the works of Tyagaraja, Muthuswami Dikshitar, and many other practitioners. So finding this ultimate reality, which is constrained to that particular walk of life, or walk of or endeavor of knowledge or scientific endeavor, will ultimately remove the vasanas, including the Shastra Vasana. So Shastras say that Shastra Vasana is also a Vasana, right? So this particular aspect, even though it's a diluted form of Ekatattva Abhyasa according to yoga, this will remove the inflictions that one has and will slowly or gradually lead him to see this reality in all other aspects of the universe. My Guruji, Swami Paramananda Bharati, used to give an example of a person who was a renowned mathematician. So his Alexander Grothendieck, he made great contributions to mathematics, especially to algebra, and he was also politically active person for a large period of his life. And after a certain stage, he leaves all these things and he lives a life of a ascetic without mingling too much with the external world, trying to live a vegetarian lifestyle and just contemplating on the reality. So it has been seen in sadhakas of different countries, different cultures, uh, starting from different initial branches of knowledge. This has been also told in Durga Saptashati as Vidyashu Shastreshu Viveka Deepeshu Adyeshu Vakyeshu Utaka Tudanya. So who else is there in these Vidyas and Shastras and the great Adi Vakyas apart from you? So it has been mentioned in all other Shastras in one or the other way. So it is very important for sadhakas to start, or for any other layman to start with this Ekatattva Abhyasa, starting with a particular uh, uh, walk of life. It could be fine arts as well, it could be some branches of science, or it could be any other Shastra in Indian knowledge systems. So this was one of the take-home messages from this episode. Then let us take the second interesting episode. So Shankara, as a kid, has now finished his Gurukula education very quickly. He has shown his talent in quickly acquiring the knowledge. Now he is back home and he has been helping people from all walks of the society, not looking at their caste or creed or any other background. So, listening to his glories, the king of Kerala, does not have child for a long period of time at that point in time. So, listening to the glory and the Mahima of Shankara, even as a small kid, he first sends a amadhya or a minister with lot of wealth and a element as a gift, so that he invites Shankara through this minister to his palace so that he can receive his grace. The way it has been put in Shankara Digvijaya is really amazing. So Shankara doesn't explicitly put off this offer. So he says that, see, I am a brahmachari and I am supposed to follow the varnashrama dharma that is ordained by the Vedas and Shastras. So according to our varnashrama dharma, I am a Brahmin and I am a brahmachari. So as a brahmachari, I have very strict rules to follow, which includes begging everyday food as bhiksha and eating and surviving only on that whatever I get. That is one thing. Second, I have to wear Krishnajana, and there are a lot of other rules that I have to follow, which are very strict. And I don't have any right to take all these wealth. The beauty about this, the way this episode has been portrayed is the Amatya or the minister doesn't tell that the king is actually asking for help to get his progeny. So this has not been mentioned. So Shankara, right? So he could have taken all the wealth or the gifts, but he says that this doesn't fit my ashrama dharma or varna dharma, because there has been no explicit request that has been made. And he says that you please tell your king. This is the message that he gives to the minister. You please convey my message to the king. My message is that you should rule the state such that all people will follow the varnashrama dharma strictly. That is one thing. And they shall not abandon karma. So when Advaita Vedanta, at least very superficially, is all about jnana, he stresses the importance of karma also. So as a part of varnashrama dharma, Brahmana is supposed to educate all sections of society without any discrimination. Unfortunately, today, the Varnashrama Dharma has been wrongly misunderstood because of various narratives. So I urge all the audience to read two books authored by Miss Sinu Joseph. One is Rituvidya, the other one is Varnavidya. So this will give you the scientific basis of Varnashrama Dharma and why it has to be followed. And if it is not followed, it will actually hamper the spiritual progress of a person. If you are interested in spiritual progress, then you have to strictly follow the Varnashrama Dharma. This is one of the take-home message from this incident. So once Shankara conveys this message and the minister conveys this message to the king, he understands that this is not the right way to treat Mahamahima like Shankara, and he personally comes with 10,000 gold coins to Shankara and asking for help because he has been treated by the best of the physicians and still he has not got a kid. So Shankara first says that I don't have to do anything with your 10,000 gold coins because I'm a Virakta. But he says that you better distribute this 10,000 gold coins amongst my family members. That is one thing that he says. Second, he also secretly advises the king to perform a particular ishti or a yaga so that he can get his progeny. So there are again lot of dharma sukshmas here. If Shankara is a virakta, he could directly say, I don't want, neither I want these 10,000 gold coins, neither I would suggest you to give these 10,000 gold coins to my family members. Better try to give it as dhanam to poor people. So, in the Karma Siddhanta, whenever a havana or a yajna or a yaga is made, a purohita is invited so that the yajamana or the person who wants to perform that yaga or yajna, he doesn't know all the procedures of the yajna or yaga, and he asks knowledgeable people to perform that particular karma. So when that knowledgeable person performs the karma with utmost devotion, if the dakshina or the remuneration is not given to the purohita, it means that the karma will actually reside within the purohita. It will not get transferred to the particular yajamana or the person who is trying to perform that particular yaga or yajna, or in general a karma. So according to Dharma Shastras, one has to give something. It could be gold coins because he was a Raja, but if it was a common man, he could have given maybe some vegetables, some grains, whatever he has grown, or any other thing that he has according to his Shakti, Bhakti, and Bhukti. So this is one of the Dharma Sukshmas. So he could have received it directly, but he says that he is a Virakta. But you see that he has been taken care of by his family members, and whatever punya that he does, in general, whatever punya a person does, will be not only reside will not only reside in that particular person's uh, atma, but it will also get distributed to other people who have supported in doing that particular punya karma or papa karma. So he wants that equation of karma to be equalized on both the sides. So that's why he says that you distribute the money amongst my family members. So this is one thing. Secondly, he secretly gives the details of the yajna that has to be performed because that particular details will correspond to the Purvajanma Vasanas, the Purvajanma Karmas, and the implications of that the king is undergoing. So there's a secret teaching. So these are some of the things that we can learn from this episode. Moving ahead, fast forwarding some of the episodes, we can get into the Mandana Mishra Samvada or the Vada. So, as I told initially, the main claim of Advaita requires as a sort of validation or an experimentation for at least one person or few people to show that they are sarvajñas and they are not affected or afflicted by any of the karmas once they have become brahmajnanis. So this has to be proved. So Mandana Mishra is a great scholar coming from the Purva Mimamsa philosophy. So the important tenets of Purva Mimamsa philosophy is that if you perform karma according to the rules mentioned in Vedas and Shastras, the karma itself will deliver the fruits. So there is no need of an Ishvara. This has been the understanding of Purva Mimamsakas at that point of time. So they were also called Nirishvaravadis. Now understand that the Purva Mimamsa Sutras, every Shastra will have Sutric literature, then a Bhashya or a commentary, and lot of Vartikas or Vrittis and Vyakhyanas, supplementary commentaries. Right? So the Sutras have been given by Jaimini, Rishi Jaimini, who was the Shishya of Vyasa. And Vyasa is the one who gave Brahma Sutras, which talk about the Brahman and the Advaita. Now, Shankara wants to debate with Mandana Mishra. And remember, one important thing about Mandana Mishra, which Shankara Dibujaya says, when Shankaracharya came to his house, he was doing the Shraddha. And the people who were invited as Brahmins for this Shraddha were none other than Vyasa and Jaimini. So it means that he has lot of yogic powers to invoke them and invite them to the Shraddha. So he's not a simple person. He's not, again, a bookish person. But at that point of time, the Purva Mimamsa people had this understanding that there is no requirement of a Ishvara or Brahman. And they said that the karma itself, when performed according to the rules, will give the fruits at the right point in time. So this was their belief. So during the Vada or the debate between Shankaracharya and Mandana Mishra, I will not get into the details. So Shankaracharya tries to establish Advaita and he tries to refute the Karma Siddhanta or Nirishvara Siddhanta, and he wins over Mandana Mishra. Even after this victory, Mandana Mishra has certain doubts. It has been very beautifully captured in Shankara Digvijaya. So Mandana Mishra says that I'm not really affected by this failure, but what I'm really moved by is that the Jaimini Sutras have been proved to be wrong by your arguments. So that is what really bothering me. How can this happen? Because Jaimini Maharshi is not again a bookish philosopher or an armchair philosopher. He is again a Yoga Siddha and he is a Trikala. So how can his sutras, how can he tell something which is wrong? So this was the first question that Mandana Mishra raises after his defeat in the debate. Shankara very carefully takes this question and says that so there is no wrong in Jaimini Maharshi telling that or refuting the existence of an Ishvara in one of the sutras. But you have not understood the heart or the rahasya of Jaimini. So he says, so what is that great rahasya or that subtle thing that I have not understood, or even other Mimamsakas have not understood? So then Shankara says, Tarkikas or people following the Nyaya Darshana, they try to prove the existence of Ishvara using arguments which do not depend on Vedic statements. But there is a Veda mantra which says, Na Veda Vinmanutetam Brahantam. This is a Vedic statement. So what it says, Na Aveda with Manute Tam Brahantam. Brahantam refers to Brahman. So Aveda with, which is a person who doesn't understand Veda. Again, when I say understand, it refers to practically really understanding the essence of Veda through one's experience. So a person who is not Vedavit, who doesn't understand Vedas in this way, cannot understand Brahman or Ishvara. He cannot understand or experience Ishvara. So this is one of the Vedic statements. Now, Tarkikas or Naiyayikas or people following Nyaya philosophy have established that you can show or infer the existence of an Ishvara through arguments which really doesn't require Vedic statements. But the Veda is telling the other way, right? So in order to refute this, in order to refute that the existence of Ishvara can be easily proven using arguments which does not depend on Veda, Jaimini Maharshi puts lot of arguments to establish that there is no Ishvara. This is just a game, this is just a trick. So this game is to prove that you need Vedas to actually prove the existence of an Ishvara or Brahman. This is the heart, this is at the heart or the core of Jaimini's sutras. But he doesn't explicitly mention this in the Shastras. So when we have to deal with Indian Shastras, any Indian Shastra, it could be, there is something known as Rahasya or Hridaya or Upanishad. So these three terms are used very frequently, like in the statement, Yadeva Vidyaya Shraddhaya Upanishada Karoti Tareva Viryavattaram Bhavati. So that which is done with Shraddha, that is lot of faith. Again, it's a very technical word. I will not get into getting into those technicalities. So one has to do with Shraddha and Vidya, the knowledge, and Upanishad. Upanishad is the Rahasya of that Vidya. Okay. So there are a lot of Prakaranas and Vedas. For example, Agni Rahasya in Shatapatha Brahmana, Hotru Hridayam in Yajurveda, and many other such parts in Vedas which talk about the deeper understanding of certain rituals or certain concepts. Unless you understand that concept, the hidden secret, you will not be able to do the karma properly. Not only does the statement refer for karmas or our actions, it also refers to understanding Shastras at a much more deeper level. If you see the different philosophical schools that come under Indian philosophy or Indian traditions, you see Nyaya, you see Vaisheshika, then you have Sankhya, you have Yoga, and you have Purva Mimamsa, and finally Uttara Mimamsa, which is nothing but Vedanta. You also have other Shastras like Shadangas, Natya Shastra, then there is this Agama Shastras. There are so many Shastras, including Tantras. The very beauty of Vedanta is that if you don't understand Vedanta, the Advaita Vedanta in depth with all these rahasyas, you cannot really understand all other Shastras as well. The other statement, vice versa statement, it's also very important. That is, if you don't understand the importance of other Shastras or the deep secrets of other Shastras, you cannot really appreciate Vedanta in depth. So this is a very heavily weighted statement. I will not try to prove it in this talk because of in the interest of time. But this is what is Shankara trying to prove now. So let us try to quickly recapitulate what I have told earlier. So at that point in time, Mimamsakas had this understanding that Jaimini is trying to prove that there is no Ishvara. But actually, Jaimini is trying to prove that there is no Ishvara to just prove that Tarkikas are wrong in saying that it is easy to prove the existence of Ishvara in terms of inference without depending on Vedic statements. That is the real intention of Jaimini. But he doesn't explicitly mention it in a sutra. But this Nirishwaravada or the non-existence of Ishvara is an implied understanding of Mimamsakas. And this is what Shankara tries to clarify to Mandana Mishra. Now, for a while, Mandana Mishra thinks that it looks like it is as if though you are forcefully bringing some logic to somehow patch up the understanding or the misunderstanding of Mimamsakas. So, since he is also adept in yoga, so he contemplates or does dhyana or invokes Jaimini Maharshi. And in a minute, Jaimini Maharshi is there and he says, whatever this person, Shankara, is trying to tell you, he knows, he's a Trikaladjnani, he knows the deeper secrets of every other Shastra, and you can take his word as a gold standard. And then Mandana Mishra just completely surrenders to Shankaracharya. So, what we need to take from this episode is that Advaita is not only helping us to understand other Shastras, not only helping us to understand Advaita or the Prasthanatraya, but it is also required to completely understand other Shastras as well, including Shastras like Natya Shastra. Because there are many statements in Shastras like Natya Shastra, Geetam, Nrityam cha, Natyam cha, Trayam Sangeetam Uchyate. So the definition of Sangeeta in Natya Shastra is said to be a conglomeration of Vadya, Geeta, that is singing, and Nritya. But today we don't see, just singing is called as Sangeeta. But what is the hidden meaning of this definition of Sangeeta requires much deeper analysis. And we see that people who were great scholars in Natya Shastra, for example, Abhinava Gupta, was also a great philosopher. Again, not a bookish philosopher, but a person who had practical experience of something which is very nearer to the Advaita Vedanta. So he followed the Pratyabhijna Shaiva Darshana, or which is very famous, very well known as Kashmiri Shaivism. It is not exactly Advaita, but it is very close to Advaita. So you see that understanding of Advaita is very essential to understand all other Shastras and vice versa. Given some more time, I could have given a lot of other examples to support this claim. But since we have less time, let us go to the one of the final episodes from Acharya's life. So he goes to a Digvijaya wherein he wants to establish Advaita by refuting all other non-Advaitic schools, including the Kapalikas, the so-called Shaktas, so-called Tantrikas. I am very carefully using the word so-called because Tantra in its gist is nothing different from Veda in its gist. But at that time, Tantrikas had lot of pervert understanding of Tantras, which is completely opposite to the Vedas. And Shankara tries to fight them in terms of maybe might, maybe his mantra shakti, or sometimes he will use simple arguments or debates to win over them. So once he encounters a person from Shakta tradition, again so-called Shakta tradition, his name is Abhinav Gupta. So Abhinav Gupta is really disgusted with this defeat, and he tries to cast a spell on Shankaracharya. So he does an Abhichara Prayoga. Abhichara Prayoga is something that you try to enforce a damage to another person in terms of his health or so on and so forth. So Shankaracharya gets a roga which is called Bhagandara, which is nothing but fistula. So he doesn't worry about the pain that is happening. So the beauty again about Shankar Digvijaya is Shankaracharya, when asked upon by his students that why don't you take medication for this particular roga that has been there for quite a long time, he says that this has come because not of the prakriti imbalance. So rogas can come because of two things. One is the imbalance in prakriti, the other being because of pura janma karmas. He clearly says that this is not because of the imbalance in prakriti, it is because of some pura janma karma. Great Sarvajna like Shankara trying to cover up the abhichara prayoga that has been inflicted by this tantrika. He tries to put it as if though it's a purvajanma karma phala. So after a lot of uh, forcing by his students, by his disciples, he will finally agree to undergo some treatment. And even if he tries to undergo all the elaborate treatment by the best of the best physicians, the disease is not cured. And Shankara doesn't, as he's a Vairagya Purusha, so he will not ask for any deity to cure his disease. But he will be, as a part of natural or everyday chores, he will be doing dhyana of Shiva. And there is another Dharma Sukshma here that if you pray to God with a Nishkama Bhava, he will take care of all other things that is required for your well-being. Even if you have to go through some sort of difficulty in life, and you think that God is not really helping you, it might be because he wants to test you. So Shankara does Nishkama Puja, and finally the Lord Shankara sends Ashwini Devatas and says, those Ashwini Devatas say to these disciples that this has been caused because of the Abhichara Prayoga. Shankaracharya would have told that directly that this has been caused because of the Abhichara Prayoga, and Padmapada would have done some cure to it very easily, instantly. So when Padmapada comes to know about this Abhichara Prayoga, he becomes very angry and he tries to do the japa of Omkara with the intention of creating a reverse effect of this Abhichara, and that person gets killed. So the beauty about this episode is Shankaracharya has no enmity even against the enemies who tried to do something completely wrong to him, and he tries to cover that up in terms of Purvajanma Papa. So all in all, since we are coming to this end of the episode, the program, what I want to say is there are a lot of such gems in Shankara Digvijaya, which when looked at from the lens of Dharma Shastra, Advaita, and even other Shastras, they will open up the doors for understanding other Shastras and Advaita in a much deeper fashion, and that will finally lead to practicing Advaita in a much better way. So I'll conclude with this final message. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chinmayananda. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for this talk where you explained from incidents in Shankaracharya's life, which pointed out to this knowledge and particularly the circumstances of his birth and what are the qualifications of a teacher and so on. So we're very grateful to you. Viewers, we have many such sessions coming up. Tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. India time, we have Acharya Revati giving a talk on renunciation is freedom. So please do tune in, and at 7 a.m. India time, we have this talk. Thank you and good night.